Hello everyone, welcome to the community updates for Electronics Let's Play. Let's start as per usual with ham radio related stuff. Finally the MCHF QRP transceiver is available for sale. So of course I placed my order and it is on the way already. And I am really looking forward to assembling this. I hope we will be able to share this here on streams, the assembly of this. This will be very exciting, I hope. Then I should see the guide here. Let me open this up. Where is it? There you go. All right, so then we have 1BTC prototype boards. I got a message from Oshpark that the boards have arrived and they are on the way here, so we will be able to assemble them very soon. And so if the new prototypes work, I still have to order some parts for them, and as soon as the prototype boards are here and the parts are here, we will assemble the prototypes and test them. If they turn out to work fine, then I will put the remaining few units on the store, so you will be able to have access. And I will be definitely keeping you up to date how that process works. If this production run works, then we will be moving on to a little bit bigger batch of production for the 1BTC. Not 1BTC, I'm talking about Icebreaker BTC. That's what I meant. Sorry about that. So also another thing that arrived is the gamepad and audio boards. Let's see here on the desktop. So unfortunately these boards are so big that the only reasonable thing to do price-wise is buying them from LCSC. So they are all in green and boring, but this allowed me to order them at a reasonable speed to get them here and get them at a reasonable price. Now that we are trying to make them accessible on the store for you in small batches, this was the best way to go. So I will be assembling those and testing them, and those that signed up to get a set of these will get notifications. If you have not signed up, definitely leave a message in our forum on the appropriate thread. There is a list of people to be notified as soon as these become available. Then next is Glasgow, right. So I was working very hard together with Electronic Eel and several other people on the Glasgow revisions. And if you might know, this is the Glasgow, the Interface Explorer. And the changes that I mentioned last week, aka the reset button and bigger cap and some other changes, are now in place and they are updated. And since last week I mentioned it would be nice to start working on a case for the Glasgow, Timon stepped up and is doing amazing work on designing and helping with the design for the Glasgow case. As an option, this will not be necessary to buy. You can buy just the PCB, but we will have a tier where you will be able to get it with a case, which will make it into a more robust and easier to transport box. So again, thank you very much for Timon for helping out. And I am now waiting for a little bit of iterations with Timon to make sure that our mechanical design of the PCB is matching the case design, and so that the case is as good as it ever can be. So as soon as we have a little bit more of an understanding where the case design goes, I will finally place the prototype order that is pending. So next is Gojimi Pie. He assembled a reflow oven just like I did. He used one of the adapter boards that change this board here. This is from the Unified Engineering, and they published those PCBs where you can get thermocouple interfaces, improved thermocouple interfaces. And I made a very small batch of a few units. More boards are on the way. They are ordered, and as soon as they are here, I will put more on the store. But he went through the whole process, documented everything in his own process, and he found an issue that some of the ovens have, which was very interesting. Namely, the reset line on the microcontroller, on the controller board, is in some cases a little bit flaky, and the reset needs an additional resistor to make sure that it is stable. So it uses he uses a resistor to 3.3 volts, as far as I remember, to stabilize the reset on power up of the oven. So this is an interesting addition to the process. Definitely check out his guide and his blog post about his changes and what he figured out for the modification. Then we have Greg DeVille, who all of you probably know from his really amazing photos on Twitter, as well as from the Orange Grab project. He's working on a new board called the Butterstick, and Butterstick is an ECP5 board that has access to the high-speed interfaces and uses syzygy connectors. And he started to stream on Twitch, which is very exciting. So definitely check out his Twitch channel. He posted an archive on YouTube. It was very enjoyable to pop in and out of his stream. He streamed for 7 hours to assemble his prototypes, which was longer than he expected, but it was still very interesting, and I recommend that you follow Greg's channels on YouTube and Twitch. Then we have Andrew Sonnenberg, who is working on GLS Scope Client, which is a desktop software that connects to a high-speed oscilloscope. So Andrew is usually working on very high-speed related stuff. He does a lot of FPGA ASIC microscopy. He has a very broad interest range and has a really well-equipped lab at his home. So he wanted to build something that allows him to analyze mostly high-speed Ethernet connectivity. So the software for analysis ingests data from a high-speed oscilloscope and adds additional modes for analysis. And last week he added features so that he can check if this is useful also for RF related stuff, and this is what he's talking about here. So if you don't know about his software, he also has, so this is, he also added a feature for eye diagram matching, so that you can do 10 gig Ethernet and 1 gig Ethernet specification margins and analysis of those high-speed links. He has multiple videos explaining the new software on his YouTube channel, so definitely check this out. Let me see. GLS Scope Client and just also work for more than... Oh, so they also do work for more common and cheaper oscilloscope, because I think what Andrew is using is Rode and Schwarz oscilloscope, or some other 10 gig or 100 gig oscilloscope, something not... yeah, LeCroy, I'm sorry. Yeah, so LeCroy oscilloscope. That's correct. Thank you for correcting me here. Yeah, so, oh, you can use it with multiple oscilloscope. That's great news. Thank you for correcting me and updating this. So if you have any of those more modern oscilloscope that are supported by the software, definitely give it a try, because it seems like a very interesting piece of software for analysis of high-speed signals. Next, we have something from our great friend Mike Walters, and he wrote a really interesting thread on his Twitter where he describes his path to making proper SMA cables. So he figured out that his SMA cables were not very good quality, so he got really high quality materials and step by step described all the things that he did to build his cables, and I thought that was very well written and very interesting. I'm always several times I was trying to look into the process of the correct or good way of creating SMA cables, and there's not very much good documentation about this, and I found this really well put together. So definitely give this a look, and thumbs up and a retweet if you can. I'm sure there are many people that will find this very interesting. Next we have Arturo 182, and he finally released his QWERTY keyboard with display, which is a featherwing hat. This is really cool, and it essentially takes a featherwing format device on the back. It has a display and a keyboard and makes it more like into a handheld typey device like a BlackBerry. So as a side effect of this release, he also finally registered a company. So we have a new company in the world called Solder Party. Sorry. And so besides his Twitter, he also created a Twitter for his new company. So if you are in Europe, you can now get, and you have a company yourself, you can buy stuff from Arturo without paying VAT, which is nice. That was a very funny comment that I saw from Sylvain that he was very excited about. So I'm retelling that story. So yeah, give him a follow. Also important, Solder Party has a Discord channel. Or Discord server, so it is linked in here, and definitely add it to your probably ever-growing list of awesome Discord servers, and this one is definitely worth taking a look at. Next we have something that I found somewhat funny. So you might know Pine64 from their high-speed or low-cost Raspberry Pi compatible devices, or their open-source laptop that runs on ARM processor. They posted something funny that they are making a soldering iron with RISC-V inside. So if you are looking for a list of products that are running on RISC-V cores, this will be another one to add to the list. I found that somewhat funny. The cool thing that I like about this iron is actually that it has both USB-C and barrel jack. So whoever prefers whichever supply type will be well served with that iron. I assume this will be similar to the TS100 type of soldering irons. But yeah, what made me laugh was the RISC-V part in here, and that's a good way to pander to us nerds for sure. So the next thing that I would like to share is Fossey Foundation dial-up. I think that just happened today, so that was probably earlier today. I have not watched the stream itself, but there was another dial-up this time. This was Mohammed MK, who is working at eFabless, and they were sharing their information about the Strive SoC family of open source family of SoCs. So it is I think it is a RISC-V, yes, it says even here, RISC-V core called Strive that they are making to run on the Skywater PDK, which is the open source ASIC PDK. you might have heard in one of the previous community updates. So that was another one of those FOSSi Foundation dialups. Really, I'm sure this will be very interesting to some of you, so I wanted to give this a shout out. And there's also a more thorough description of what will be in the talk, and I'm sure this already happened, so you can probably watch the archives. Next is Matt Venn, who is working really hard on documenting and making access to the ASIC or learning about ASIC design easier. So he was is considering submitting his Asic Workshop to Hackaday RemoteCon. As you know, I mentioned RemoteCon the other day, and there are still the openings for it. So Matt is submitting his workshop for this. He asked for input from the community to his submission, and he posted the Google Docs link to his submission. So you should review it, take a look if you find something that he should address additionally in the workshop, or if you have additional input, you definitely should take a look at this. I think this will be I hope this happens. This will be definitely a very interesting workshop to learn about ASIC design. And this is, I'm sure, related to the Skywater PDK. So maybe this will give you a leg up to maybe submit a small section to the free shuttle that is offered by Skywater. Next thing is, let's see. Did I miss something? Yeah, last but not least, there is some really cool addition to Keycard. So someone mentioned that last week during community updates, that I should also give a little bit time to Keycard updates and new patches and expansions. So this week we are getting in, this is all nightly, this is version 6 Keycard, so it is not the stable version, but it is still a very exciting new feature that we are getting. Now net classes and so net classes as well as objects on the PCB can get their own transparency setup and color controls, which means you can, Drew showed it pretty well in this short video. You can adjust, for example, copper fills and make copper fills more transparent than normal traces. Or you can make footprints more transparent than traces, or change colors of them. So you have much more flexibility to make review of PCBs easier and make them visually easier to parse. What is where and what is happening where. I find especially the ability to make copper fills faint and still have them enabled incredibly useful, because usually what you do when you do Keycard design, you completely disable the copper fills to be shown because you want to see the traces, and then you have to not forget to switch them on again and make sure that they are right. And with this change, you can actually keep them on and still work on the PCB without having to hide them and introduce errors during the design. So Drew also made, there's a YouTube video a little bit bigger that shows the controls here. So the controls are also here in the right panel instead of being hidden in a dialog, which is also a new addition. And so you can just take objects and adjust their transparency directly in the main dialog, which is a very cool addition. Alexis also posted about that, and I think she has also a good shows well how having the copper fills enabled and transparent is very useful. All right, so, the important thing to mention here, this feature was created by Crafty John. He resurrected his account on Twitter, so give them a follow. The interesting thing here is this feature so they mentioned that earlier, what he said, they said is they implemented the first version of the code 2 years ago. And it took 2 years to add all the necessary infrastructure to make it a stable enough feature to merge into the design. So into the software of Keycard. So this is an interesting view also in how complicated it is to add features that are as wide-sweeping as such a thing. It again speaks to what I was mentioning before, this community updates. We think that, this is an obvious feature, it should have been here and it should be easy to add. And then it turns out it takes 2 years to add all the underlying infrastructure so that you can add this supposedly simple thing of just fading, being able to set transparency for objects. So yeah, we always have to check ourselves how we perceive how software is being developed and how many dependencies it has on the backend. So yeah, that said, let me check really quick on the comments if there's anything related to the community updates I should mention. So a question from Jordi is if there is a way to install nightly together with in parallel with stable. If you have Ubuntu, yes, that's you can. So as far as I understand, only Ubuntu Linux has support for that. There are two separate PPAs that you can source and have them both installed. So I can show it later after the community updates. We will try to open one of my designs in nightly build as well as stable, because I have Ubuntu installed on here and I have both versions of Keycard, the nightly and the stable installed at the same time, which is not a problem. They don't collide with each other. As far as I understand, this is only a feature on Ubuntu. Maybe there is like a Windows way of doing that. I don't think it works on Arch. As far as I know, Arch does not have support for this, as far as I know, but I'm happy to be corrected. If someone wants to make packages for Arch to allow these two things, that would be probably a very welcome addition. As far as I know, this is not an option at the moment. All right, yeah, just make an R package. Well, yeah, that's if you should basically take the way it is built for Ubuntu to get the two versions. Yeah, Keycard and Keycard Unstable, or like nightly, yes, but it's still a little bit more complicated. You have to make those packages for it, so you have to compile it separately. But yeah, anyways. Let's see, there is also Rachel had a comment from here. She has like some direct message from me, I guess, and I have to dig it out. Let me give me a second. There we go. I can't open it. Why? There we go. Yeah, not yet, Rachel. That's we will happen. It will happen in the future. All right. So that said, thank you very much, everyone, for being here. As always, thank you very much for all the wonderful Patreons of making these community updates possible. I would like to give them a really short shout out here on stream before we end this segment. So thank you very much to Jamin, Aki Van Ness, Ben Vanek, Brennan Ashton, Drew Fustini, Edward Borden, Gojimi Pie, Jeff Wang, Jordi Parky Rodriguez, Jonas Kudat, Kelly, Matthias Schmieder, Matthias Pritchett, Miha Benovets, Sid Price, Tom Keddy, Sean C, and two new members to the shoutout tier is Mr. Jake22 and Ben Baker. thank you very much for making this possible. Also, thank you very much for all the subscriptions on Twitch. That really helps and makes these community updates possible. So thank you very much for being here, and see you next week, next Tuesday. Have a good one. Bye.